Hey everyone, and welcome back to Breaking Bread. This is the Birmingham-based food podcast presented by Liam and Carl. Here's Carl.
Hola.
And I'm Liam. So this episode, it's quite a long one, so we're not going to ramble on like we did do for our usual intros. We're just going to keep this a little bit short and sweet.
We're going to get you straight into the mix.
Yeah, so this one's, as you may have guessed by the title, it's all about wine. Something I don't really know a fat lot about. When I did drink, it wasn't really wine that I ever drunk. It's something I never really got into.
I've never seen you touch wine.
Nah.
Maybe barley wine or something, but not wine.
Yeah, wine. It's not really, never was my thing. It was always, I think it's a bit of a mystery, and I think it is to quite a lot of people. So I think
this is an eye-opener. I drink a lot of wine, and I thought I knew a little bit about wine, not a lot. But then you get into the natural and organic wines that these are dealing with, and there's just it's like a whole new ball game, a load more grapes that you need to learn, and it's really interesting. It's a really good episode if you want to learn more about this sort of organic and natural wines, and also about a bar that's going to open up in the coolest part of Birmingham, Digbeth. You can go in, tell them what you like, and they actually have a genuine interest in trying to sell you bottles that they'll think you'll enjoy.
Yeah, they don't want to just sell like the dearest bottle or the most profit. They're not into that. They're into making sure you actually love the wine that you're given, because if I got the feeling they really loved all of the wines that they sold. They only sold wines that they believe in.
Yeah. And I've had loads of wines off them over the lockdown period and stuff, so yeah, you can probably hear that ice cream van. I don't know if you hear it on this.
I don't know. No,
we'll find out, won't we? Well, I tell my daughter, I said it's he only plays the music when they've run out of ice cream.
Yeah, so Taylor and Sam, I think they do a great job. You know, their company's called Wine Freedom. They're on a kind of mission just to make wine more approachable and more, just to bring better wine to more people, I think.
Yeah, if they'd set up a cult like this, I'd be involved. I'd be like, yeah, I'm all in.
Their branding's brilliant. I loved all the wine wankers stuff and that. I still think they should have called the bar Wine Wankers.
Yeah. But no, it's a great episode.
It's around the corner from Digbeth if you're looking for it.
Yeah, it's prime position in Digbeth.
I think this will be open by the time we release this. Should be about then. So
yeah, I'm popping in a couple of days because they're open to pick up the collection, so I want to pick more wine up. So
you've been getting deliveries off them non-stop.
I have, yeah, and I'm again what you were saying just about they don't try and sell you the most expensive, they try and sell you the one that suits you the best. Some of the ones I've had are some of the cheapest ones they sell, and they've advised it. And I'll buy stupidly expensive wine, but just good price ranges, something for everyone. And it really comes across in this podcast, I think, how much they care about people just drinking good wine rather than expensive or fancy or a brand name, just the ones they actually like.
Yeah, they've got a good little space there. They've got enough room to do events. They're on about doing a few events there, and they've got an off-license part, off sales obviously, and a little bar as well that sells not just wine, there's other bits and pieces. You'll hear about it in this show anyway.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, so I hope you love it. So this is Tyler and Sam from Wine Freedom.
It's funny, like, I mean, we've had like quite a few people ask us, oh, can we get the Action Bronson wine? And then you can't, maybe we kind of should stock it really, because it's so popular.
Yeah.
Is it any good?
He's quite a he's quite a popular guy in the natural wine movement. You know, he's got such a massive following. And you can't have the Action Bronson wine. Yeah.
Yeah, Car is nice. It's a bit overpriced, but it's nice.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one that he was championing for a while, wasn't it? But he's got his actual own wine.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. It's made by Eric Boujou from Loire. So it's got his name on it. I can't remember what he's called it, but it's like in its sort of third, fourth vintage. And you can see it's just got more and more expensive. Like as
who imports that in the UK?
Rayburn.
Do they?
Yeah. I think it's Rayburn. Yeah. So we're like a sort of lowly wholesaler. So we're the middleman. Really.
I was going to say, where do you get your wines from?
All over the shop, really. We use various different importers over the last few years or so, and we've sort of whittled it down to a slightly kind of shorter, more concise selection as we've kind of sort of grown into what we do. And it takes a little bit of time for you to sort of find your feet and develop relationships with with your suppliers, and over a bit of time you get to sort of they learn a bit more about you, what you like and what you stand for and what your philosophy is, and it becomes quite a nice sort of friendship. So yeah,
it definitely becomes a dialogue. It's not. It's
yeah, for sure.
So you go out and see a lot of them. You do a lot of travel.
Yeah, we do. Certainly for the first 2-3 years or so, we did a lot of tasting, and even before I set up Wine Freedom, there was a good sort of 6 to 12 months or so beforehand. I was kind of planning, and I remember there's a guy called Joe Fattorini he's quite popular now within the wine industry. He's more of a presenter now. He does the wine show, which is on ITV, and I think it sort of gets sold out to various other channels as well. And he's developing quite a big name for himself. And he used to be my manager at a company called Birmingham, which is quite a big importer and distributor. So most people in the restaurant industry kind of know who Birmingham is. So I used to work for them, but for a good sort of 6 to 12 months or so before I left, I was I had this idea of setting up my own company, as you do, like the transitionary period. So I said to him once, do you mind if I go to this natural wine fair? And I think he's just a bit like, why would you go and do that? Like, what relevance has that got to do with like what you're doing? And I was kind of like, no, I'd quite like to go. He's like, no, you're not allowed to go. And he phoned me up like the week after. Whether he figured out what date and time and stuff it was going on, but he phoned me up. I was like, hi Joe. He's like, where are you? I was like, I'm at that actual wine fair. He's like, I told you, you're not allowed to go to that. So it's I kind of digress, I think, a little bit. But where did you start with that question? Sorry.
It's a good question. That's a good question. Where I started.
No, I think
how do you source your
supplies
wine?
and
Where
stuff.
do you get them?
Yeah. So I think from the first natural wine fair, kind of got a bit of an idea of who the importers were, and it was a bit of an odd event really. It was outside. It was called the Natural Wine Fair, which is not what it's called now. And it was at Borough Market, so you had like all these different like smells coming in from all the street food traders, which was amazing. But it's not the greatest thing to have when you're wine tasting. So you're trying like a French Loire Chenin Blanc, and it kind of smells like teriyaki chicken. It's not kind of really what you want.
That's a complicated taste, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's a funny one really. I will probably come on to this in a little bit, but a lot of the wines there were a little bit controversial, and we might end up talking about natural wine and what it is and some of its foibles and kind of pitfalls. But there were some amazing wines there, but there were some wines there that just weren't particularly good. And it was a bit of a initial sort of learning experience, I think, for the natural wine industry in the UK, where to sort of go with natural wine, and where to take it for the future. So from there, I got a bit of an idea, and I was working for a company called Avery's, which is one of the longest, oldest wine merchants in the UK, been around for the best part of 300 years or so. We had a tasting room, literally sort of like 10, 20 yards away, so we're always in there tasting, loads of bottles open every day, so it was a great kind of learning ground. And it was more often than not, some of the wines that were coming through that were what you call biodynamic and more sort of low intervention, organic, that really piqued my interest just purely from tasting. They had more depth, they had more breadth, they had more, of an interesting kind of taste profile to them. And they just seemed to have a bit more of an energy kind of to them than some of the other stuff that I was tasting on a regular basis. And there were a couple of producers from the south of France, from the Roussillon, that I kind of thought, wow, that's like kind of incredible. And there was one producer called Le Soula, who I got the opportunity to go and visit a few years ago. It was one of their white wines. It's one of those ones that kind of you could see on the stock list. It kind of sat there and didn't do anything at all. They had about sort of 3 or 4 cases, and it was a few years old. Nobody was selling it because nobody knew what the fuck it was. And I did a bit of research, sort of figured out like what it was. And we did like a dinner, did like a dinner for all the staff once every kind of 6 months or so. And you had to choose something that was a bit odd and a bit kind of weird off the wine list that nobody had ever tried. So I picked this white white bottle of Lasula out, not really quite expecting what it was going to be, what it was going to be like. And it sat in a lineup of like some amazing wines, like nice old Chateauneuf de Pape, some Bordeaux and Burgundies. And it kind of, I think everybody out of the whole group, all the salespeople, kind of gravitated towards it and thought it was incredible because it was a little bit left field. Nobody really quite knew what it was. But also it just had this character and detail that a lot of the other wines just didn't really have. So that really kind of piqued my interest. And then, you know, you start sort of scratching the surface, and then, you know, you find out there's this world of a different sort of farming, a different kind of winemaking that really kind of resonated with me. And then you know, I'm an inquisitive person, so you find out where these wines are from. And I think the whole, you know, social media thing's really helped over the last 10 years or so. You know, a lot of these winemakers are creative, so the labels tend to be individual and different. So Instagram in particular is a great platform for a lot of these winemakers because it gets their brand and their labels out there. And then you can just find out from doing a little bit of kind of digging, you know, who's bringing them into the country, and it just kind of starts from there.
Are they all from a particular region or something? Or?
Not at all, no, from all over the world really. But there are particular regions that have got more of a culture of producing wines more naturally. If you go down to the Roussillon in the south of France and to the Loire, and some, you know, kind of places around the Arbois and Jurançon and Burgundy, you kind of tend to find more sort of back to basics winemakers. And you know, there are certain importers that are giving these winemakers more of a platform in the UK as well. We work really closely with an importer called Le Cave de Perrenne. I was kind of aware of their wines quite a long time ago, and I knew that their portfolio and their list was different to some of the others, and some of the winemaker stories were more interesting and more kind of engaging, and I tend to sort of like a lot of their wines. And you know, they've been instrumental as an importer for the last, you know, they started up, you know, sort of in the late 80s, kind of early 90s, so they've been going for quite a while now. Banging the drum about natural, going back to basics with, you know, viticulture and farming. And it's really kind of had this boom and kind of resurgence really. So yeah, we've got a good handful now that we're really happy with and quite proud of.
Just briefly, there might be a few listeners who just don't know the difference between natural wine and, like, say, normal wine.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference in the farming, like, or
Well,
it doesn't have to be, like, just briefly. It doesn't have to be a whole.
Fucking can of.
I know,
Kinda
yeah, I realise
Kinda
it's
works
a
out.
big
So
question, but just maybe kind of
This is
simple.
what we're trying to do. We're trying to sort of simplify it so it's easy for.
Yeah.
I mean, in the main, you can kind of really divide it into two. So the farming techniques and the winemaking techniques. So a lot of organic wines that you might see in the supermarket, you know, they might be farmed, you know, organically, but actually once the grapes get to the winery, they're manipulated, they're fucked with. They'll be tweaked up, they'll be tweaked down. They'll use yeasts from, you know, that they're effectively come from a factory somewhere that kind of gives you a standardized flavour across the board. For example, that's one example. But natural wines, they use organic farming. In a lot of instances, they use biodynamic farming, which is sort of organic plus. We'll probably talk about that a bit later. But
Like uber organic.
yeah, it's like that's like a whole nother can of worms. But once it gets into the winery, the grapes are kind of left to do their own thing. So they'll be fermented with the yeast that are indigenous to the grapes in the winery in the region. They won't have excessive use of oak, for example. It's just kind of letting the grapes do their own thing rather than trying to push them in a certain direction to give you homogeny from vintage to vintage and from, you know, for the purposes of sales. I suppose that's kind of how I always think about it anyway.
Yeah, completely. And it's what we're trying to do is we know that consumers these days are more interested and to a certain degree more concerned about, you know, what it is that they're putting into their body. You know, a lot of chefs are concerned about, you know, the farm to fork philosophy and understanding, you know, who's making the beef and the asparagus and all the rest of it. And it's an integral part of a lot of, you know, restaurateurs and chefs' stories, really. But the wine thing kind of gets overlooked. So I do think from an entree, from a restaurant kind of point of view, this is where, you know, the natural wine side of things, the natural wine story has really kind of started to, you know, pick up some momentum through, just really good wine bars that are really kind of bothered about what they do, and really good chefs that are kind of championing this side of the industry. And also you've got this move of consumers wanting to generally getting a bit more healthy, and there's a big shift now with consumers being more kind of health conscious. I'm going to call them youngsters, I guess, sort of 20-year-olds kind of coming through now that drink a lot less. If they're going to consume, they might have a couple of pints of decent quality beer, like craft beer. Quite happy to spend £6, £7, £8 on a pint or 2/3 of a pint, rather than get absolutely smashed and drink 7 or 8 pints of shitty Carling or Foster's or whatever. And it's the same kind of like parallel analogy really that's starting to happen with wine. Starting to see some real interest in where the grapes are produced, who's made them, what the story is. And it's very difficult to get that when you've got something which is made in millions and millions of bottles at a time. A lot of the big scale winemakers now, they used to be small. If you go back 150 years ago, they started from kind of small beginnings, and they had these really interesting kind of family stories, and they were making products and wines that really kind of taste of where they come from. And it's success, and it's wanting more, and it's scaling up, and there's nothing wrong with that in any kind of shape or form. But you end up with a very, very different product that's engineered, that's made to a recipe. Taylor kind of said you can add lots of things to wine and still kind of call it wine.
Yeah.
But we sort of nickname it. It's kind of like a little bit like Coca-Cola juice. You can you get a mass-produced wine from South America that sits on the shelf in a supermarket for kind of £6. A lot of the stuff that's gone into it ain't just grape juice. There's loads of other stuff, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But what we're trying to do is to try and sort of lift the lid and provide a bit of education and provide the choice for consumers. This is the real stuff. This is blood, sweat and tears into it. This tastes different every year. This really gives you a true sense of where it's come from. And there's this sort of degree of authenticity, I think, that a lot of consumers are looking for. A bottle of wine should allow you to do a bit of travelling. You want to taste like a Sangiovese from Tuscany, and you want it to be real rather than something that's manufactured. So consumers generally, about sort of 99% of the time, they don't realise what goes into a bottle. So there's this big kind of educational part of what we do is sort of getting you in, sort of giving you a bit of an education really around what you like and what you don't like, because that's really, really important. But also, informing you to make kind of better, wine-making decisions for the future. And it's there's a wealth of wine out there, and we like to sort of muck around with the proper stuff really. So again, might have digressed a little bit, but that's it's kind of to us what natural wine is.
Good answers.
Yeah. And there's no proper definition to natural wine. There isn't. It's such a kind of like an obtuse word. There's no accreditation yet. Well, there is sort of one in the Loire that's just been. There's a group of winemakers that I can't remember what they've called it.
Well, I thought it was French. I thought it was French wide rather than just Loire.
I think it's just for Loire. I think at the moment I might be wrong, but I think it's Vin de Naturel or something like that. And that's only recently just come through. And that's essentially organically farmed grapes, wines that haven't been manipulated or had anything added to them, with a small dosage of what's called sulfur dioxide, again, which is a sort of slightly kind of divisive.
But even in that, they've got two accreditations. So they've got the Vin Naturel sans soufre, and they've got the.
That's the one.
And they've got
yeah.
with sulfur, but it's it gets a bit weird, but it's
it's very complicated. But in essence, we kind of use the term natural. We it's like, will we do wines which are more natural than your average,
than what you get in
Sainsbury's because natural's a bit more of a kind of catch-all kind of word. Most consumers, wine drinkers, understand the word natural than they do organic. Organic can be quite difficult and complicated, and it means lots of different things to different people. But generally, most people kind of latch onto the word natural because it sort of means unadulterated. You know, it hasn't been manipulated or mucked around with. So we use that natural word, the word natural, a bit more loosely than maybe some other people in the industry, because we see it as probably more of a useful word to use than biodynamic. Most people don't know what that means, or unorganic. So,
do you find that a lot of people sort of look at natural wines and just think you either like natural wines or you like your standard wines, and there's sort of no switching between the two? You're either in one camp or the other camp.
there's a little bit of that. Would you find?
Well, I think kind of philosophically, people will kind of gravitate to. Yeah, I think philosophically people gravitate to one or the other, kind of as a representation of who they are. But for wine drinkers, you know, especially for kind of, I don't like to use the word serious wine drinkers, but you know, people who kind of, if you ask them what's your favourite drink, they'd say wine rather than beer. For me, that's a serious wine drinker. But you know, I think someone who drank a lot of wine and enjoyed it, you would notice a difference. So some people from a taste perspective will gravitate towards that. They tend to be slightly brighter, slightly more exuberant, slightly just with more energy. And you know, some people drink both. Some people don't drink natural and don't know about natural, and some people will swear only by natural. I mean, my mum, at the tender age of 63, now would only drink natural wine. But
I was just about to say, is there a demographic to it? Does it seem to be
63-year-old women from Bearwood? That's the demographic.
That's the target market.
Yeah. No, I think it's I think for lots of reasons it seems to I wouldn't say appeal more to younger people, but younger people seem to be slightly more drawn to it. Whether that's because they're used to coming through the sort of the craft beer scene, drinking craft beers, and they're kind of a little bit more, you know, they've kind of grown up with, you know, trying to understand more what goes into their, you know.
I think they're a little more health conscious as well. Like as Sam said before, they are drinking a lot less. A lot of stats show that they're drinking less, and what they're putting in their body, they care about a lot more.
I went vegan. I was not vegan anymore. I'm only veggie, but I went vegan about 20 years ago. Yeah. And when I went vegan like 20 years ago, it was like weird. It was really weird.
Loads of choice at restaurants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it was like the old stories like, you know, saying you're vegetarian in France, they'll give you chicken. It's like, well, anyway. It's like goat cheese is vegan. Anyway, but yeah, 20 years ago that was that was a bit weird. Whereas now it's a bit weird. You know, you have people that will do like meat free, but like, you know, ardent meat eaters will go like a vegan Monday or a meat free Monday. So I think the natural, you know, the natural wine kind of plugs into that quite a lot.
Somebody from the outside who doesn't know a lot, well, knows nothing about wine, as I don't drink or anything, but no, I don't drink at all. So, but like even looking at the ones Carl's posted, and he showed me the bottles, like the labels all look like they're targeted for younger people.
Yeah, the marketing definitely seems more geared towards younger people.
I think that it kind of is a little bit, you know, the visual representation. I kind of mentioned Instagram before, but going back to this sort of, you know, is there a divide and is there a difference between a natural wine drinker and somebody that's not? I've sort of got it's a bit of a theory, I think, really, and it's just purely based on observation, like over the years. Generally, you can go into a wine tasting. You know, I've hosted quite a few, and it's great when you get a good mixture of different ages, and it's mainly different ages actually. And you can kind of tell just by saying hello to everybody at the start of the evening which wines they're going to like and which wines they're not going to like. Oddly, and which is terrible to kind of sort of pigeonhole people, but it's you generally get a judge of somebody's character within the space of sometimes like a few seconds of meeting them, and I think sometimes it kind of comes down to whether you're like an open-minded or you're a closed-minded person, and I know psychology, you know, isn't quite as black and white as that, but I think generally when you've been drinking wine for a few decades, you get to know what you like and what you don't like, and most consumers, wine drinkers over the last, you know, since the sort of 60s, I guess, really, since wine's become more accessible, cheaper, we've got used to drinking mass-produced wine in the UK. So that's what most, you know, if you're of a well-seasoned wine drinking age, that's what you've got used to. So that's what you associate wine as being, and you shove this kind of weird natural wine under somebody's nose, and they're like, "Fuck off, that's not wine," because you've got all these very different characteristics and flavours coming out. So it's kind of like, it's quite a divisive thing, and not to say like all natural wines have got weird and wonderful flavours. Some actually are sort of perceived as quite conventional to a certain degree. But it's one of the reasons why I kind of got latched onto natural wines, because it does have a much in the round in general has much more of a wider spectrum of flavour. And I kind of sort of liken them, the difference between sort of analog and digital. It's kind of like a bit like having like a piece of vinyl where you can hear all the sort of the detail and the crackles and stuff. Whereas mass-produced conventional wine is kind of compressed to a certain degree. You lose a lot of the broader spectrum of character, and because you have all these extra kind of filters and fining agents and stabilizers put in it, you lose quite a lot, which is, I think, so sometimes a bit of a shame. But with a lot of mass-produced wine, the winemakers are using substandard or below pretty shitty fruit, so they need to employ a lot of these very kind of technical scientific processes to make that grape juice more palatable for people to consume. Yeah. So it's taking, like, to a degree, a bit of a shit product and jazzing it up and making it more interesting. So to suit a particular kind of market, and that's not what we're interested in.
Do you find there's more sort of the traditional winemakers that exist now, and especially the ones that sell to supermarkets? Do you find they're sort of changing their marketing and changing their bottles to sort of reflect how the natural wine market is sort of going?
Sort of jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak.
Sort of, yeah.
Well, I mean, was it last year or the year before Aldi decided to? Yes, they had a cheeky little orange wine.
And M&S have got, I think, an orange, Georgian orange wine.
But they've had that. I've actually used that in tastings before. Yeah. It was alright. It was alright. It was a little bit muted, but it was alright. Yeah. So what was the question? Supermarkets.
Yeah, do you just find even the winemakers themselves, the more traditional ones, are they changing how their bottles look? Are they sort of almost trying to pass it off as natural wines as such?
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably have a better idea than this guy.
So I think natural wine sort of it's cool basically.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's a cool form of drinking wine compared to.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think I'm being honest here. I think I'm now pretty blinkered. I don't really.
Saturated.
Yeah, well, I can't remember the last time I walked down a supermarket wine aisle. I can't remember the last time I even, looked on a.
It's different to me. Like, if Lucy loses me in a supermarket, she's like, "Oh, he'll be in the wine aisle," and that's generally because I'm seeing what's going on. Just out of interest, really.
Yeah. Sam's doing research. I'm just fuck it. I can't be asked.
Bolster.
Yeah. Got better things to. Got to look at the chocolate hobnobs.
The plants.
Yeah, sorry.
The plants.
Yeah, the plants. Yeah.
Plants, yeah.
So yeah, have they got 3 for 10 this week? Yeah, got to go for them. Actually, every time I go past like Aldi or Lidl now, we'll have to slow down and see if they've got a job lot of plants in. But that's a different story. It's not. I don't know. It's Sam might have a thought on that, but
it's a hard question to answer, I
think. There is a certain degree of that, but the natural wine accounts for very, very small, less than 0.5% of the market. It's growing rapidly, and even lockdown, had a quick sort of email exchange with Doug, who represents Le Cave de Purène. He's sort of one of the main sort of head guys at Le Cave de Purène, and he was saying even during lockdown, there's been a massive spike in their sales and in natural wine sales just in general. I think.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I've drank more than now. But
yeah, I think it's probably kind of gone with that trend a little bit, really. But I think gradually it's a little bit more of a cultural thing. I think it's not necessarily a matter of kind of. I think there's a certain element of kind of being cool and being young and being maybe a bit more of a hipster kind of. I don't like using this sort of phrase hipster, but it's a general kind of like term, sort of young creatives, I guess, to a certain degree, and actually, that sort of demographic, they're the ones that are generally a little bit more open-minded.
Yeah.
And you can't really kind of get away from that, sort of going back to what I was saying before about being open or kind of closed-minded. And also kind of being in the infancy of your exploration with drinking, with booze and with food. During your 20s is the most sort of formative years. And, if you kind of latch on to natural wine earlier on, then, you're kind of sort of geared up to, the flavours and the taste and the, the profile and stuff that it kind of brings. But what I also kind of noticed, we do training and stuff with wine training with staff members, with restaurants and chefs and stuff. And it's interesting. You tend to find a lot of the members of staff from European countries that have grown up with wine production. They understand the smell and the raw and the base ingredient. They know what fermented grape juice smells and tastes like. They understand that it has sugar and acidity, and it has all these other kind of different things associated with it. So when you take a sip, it's not too alien. And the amount of people I've met from Romania, Bulgaria, Georgia, France, Italy, Spain, and there just seems to be a little bit more understanding of the product, because a lot of them have sort of grown up with it, and a lot of them have been drinking proper, good quality homemade wine, that's made by the family or the local kind of cooperative that hasn't been, again, sort of buggered around with. So I find that kind of interesting as well. The difference with what's kind of acceptable between, growing up with the UK palate is very different to like how, somebody would grow up in France, for instance. It's a very, I'm kind of painting it with a very sort of black and white kind of brush, but I do notice that quite a lot. It's an interesting thing.
Are there any UK natural wines that are any good? Or?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. And we kind of represent three at the moment, and we will certainly want to champion more and more and more as this side of the industry kind of grows in the UK. So Davenport, based down in Sussex, they're not necessarily natural, but Will Davenport's been a massive advocate and a great teacher of organic viticulture for a lot of winemakers for a few decades now. And then we're real big fans of Anchor Hill, who are based over in Monmouth in Wales. They produce all the wines naturally and biodynamically. Amazing spot. It's like in a little kind of bowl, really. You kind of think Wales is going to be pissing it down and really cold and wet, but Monmouth has like a third of the amount of rain that Cardiff does, for instance. So it's more kind of akin to Hereford, really, isn't it? Really, than it's only just over the border.
They just built a massive umbrella over the whole of the valley.
Costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like a £2 billion canopy.
In one way it's really natural. No, they didn't. It's just got a really interesting mesoclimate there.
Yeah. And then there's Ben Walgate over at Tillingham as well, who I think is really kind of, ticking all the boxes with natural wine. The branding's amazing. He comes from a marketing background. He's a great speaker and talker. He can really kind of tell the story. They've got an amazing estate there. It's beautiful, picturesque.
That's right on the south coast near Hastings.
Yeah, I've looked at going there. You can stop there and everything.
Yeah,
I love their wines. They're one of the ones I like the most. They are.
Yeah, they've kind of done it the right way around, really. They've got all the rooms and stuff kind of in place, and it's going to be a proper sort of. It's going to be a great kind of tourism mecca, I think, for the years to come.
Yeah, we took a load of our customers, like they're basically mates that we sell wine to down there. That's kind of the way it is now. But we took a load of them down last summer. It was last summer, wasn't it? Poor Sam had to drive, and then got a flat tire. I remember I just got
in Hastings trying to fix a flipping flat tire,
and for the bit
absolutely battered, and I just had to go and pick him up and drive him home.
I felt really bad for the first half an hour, thinking, no, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to drive back, and then I was like, oh fuck it, I just got absolutely battered. So Ben's just sorry, to answer the question, yes, you should go there. And when we went there, they were just about finishing the restaurant and the rooms, and it looks stunning. And he's got this old oast house that's used for drying hops. Is that what an oast house is for, or for? Is it?
No, isn't it for just drying the grain out?
Is it?
I think, isn't it?
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, it's used in the for beer making, whether it's to dry hops or malt. I don't know, but he's basically I got really inspired and bought these Georgian Quevri, which are basically a big clay pots. So now he's buried them underground and he makes wine in them, and they're these big old things, and he just makes really interesting wines. He's planted a load of interesting varieties that you don't really see in the UK. Has he planted Trousseau? Did he plant Trousseau? Or
It's difficult because he blends like
yeah.
a lot in. So it's about sort of third year release now, and they're all slightly different. So the blend's slightly different every time he makes them, and he's always making new ones as well. So it's a bit of a challenge keeping up with like what goes into
What
goes
he's
into what.
doing.
But, I mean, they all taste great. So he's definitely kind of one to watch for the future.
But he's so for the first couple of years of the project, he was basically buying in grapes because his vineyards weren't yet online. Online? Weren't yet. Weird thing to say. It's not like it's not a vineyard of naughty ones, but yeah. BTO from each didn't get there in time. But no, he's been planting all these vineyards, and and is now using biodynamic preparations, so like making like teas out of nettle and horsetail and stuff. But for the first few years he was buying in grapes, but now his vineyards are kind of producing grapes that he can make wine with. So I think his next release will probably be the first ones that are his own ones. There is wines from grapes that he's grown.
Wow.
So yeah, definitely. If you're looking at a UK producer that's interesting, that's definitely
the ones I've enjoyed
definitely
most.
somewhere to go. Yeah. Which ones did you like of his wines?
It's the one with the swirly
The-
orange swirl.
The fizzy pink.
Fizzy pink, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything fizzy pink, I'm usually pretty happy to be honest.
That's good to know. Just get rid of all the.
Really nice weather in lockdown. Everybody's sort of, we really kind of lockdown was a bit of a funny one for us really, because we sort of had to kind of really pivot, which is the sort of that's the word, isn't it, that most businesses are using. We had to do quite a lot of that because we were selling to the trade, and 99% of our business is to the trade, so it basically sort of went off a cliff. So we basically tried to peddle wine to as many people, consumers, wine drinkers out there as we could, so direct sales. And what we found is that a lot of people quite like drinking pink fizz.
Yeah.
We didn't really quite know that before, so it's like shit. Let's get some more pink fizz. Well, we did, but like, yeah. Well, it's a funny one because we keep a few like on the list, but it's different. Like retail sales are actually different to restaurant sales. Most restaurants don't sell a huge amount of pink fizz, but consumers during lockdown, a sunny lockdown, love it. So we sort of like quadrupled the amount of pink fizz that we've got.
I think probably this is only anecdotally, but I think a lot of that as well is due to if a restaurant's listing a pink fizz, it's probably going to be like Laurent Perrier rosé, like absolute shit, probably going to cost 80 quid. Whereas actually, if you can pick up I think the Tillingham's 22, 23, a little bit that, and so suddenly this 80 quid, rip off isn't that? It's an interesting £22 English sparkling rosé that tastes bloody delicious, and so it instantly sort of changes the market that you can sell to, rather than having to sell a bottle of Laurent Perrier rosé to one person who buys it on New Year's Eve sort of thing.
Is that what Wine Freedom started off as? Was it just a kind of wholesale to other businesses, or?
It started off as an idea to sell natural wine, to concentrate on the stuff that really excited me. But also the educational side of stuff was something I wanted to connect with this side of the industry too, because they kind of go hand in hand. Understanding like what natural wine is all about is a big educational curve, and also what's always interested in me is how consumers kind of interact with wine and sense of taste, and everybody's got their own palate. From one person to the next, it's something which is genetically kind of inbuilt into you. And also, depending on what you've tried and eaten, consumed over your life, informs what you like and what you don't like as well. So essentially what I think from the offset is the educational bit and the natural wine bit. I've tried to sort of connect the two. The initial idea was like a wine club, but that didn't really work. There's a guy, I'm not going to mention his name, bit of a shyster, fucks off with a few £100 of mine. I was going to set up a wine club with. So you kind of learn, hard and fast, not necessarily to to trust everybody, that you kind of come across. So got our fingers burnt a little bit there. And then actually, people that I was selling to when I was working for Bibendum could see what I was doing or trying to do, and said, look, we'd like to have a chat and try some of your wine. And it kind of went from there. So we've had some really, really supportive, very, very lucky, to have some really good friends in the industry now that have just been supportive all the way through. So yeah, and then it sort of ended up being us flogging wine to restaurants and chefs and.
Is it fair to say it morphed into a wholesale business? It didn't. It did.
It pivoted.
You tripped over and called it a pivot. Is that what it was?
Yes.
If you say unprecedented, this podcast is over. So, on the wholesale, were the clients, I don't know, call them customers, were they kind of open-minded? Were they excited about you?
I think kind of interested, really. And it's when I was working for Bibendum, they're a big company, and you're working with lots of different sorts of establishments. But I sort of gravitated towards the fine dining places because you talk about wine, you talk about the product. Whereas if you're trying to do a sales pitch for a big hotel group, it's less about the quality of the wine. It's more about how cheap can you get it and how much money can you chuck at the deal. Completely, and it's all about spreadsheets, and it is business at the end of the day. But I just gravitated towards this end of the market because it's all about proper stuff. You end up talking to chefs and restaurateurs that are really bothered about what they put on the plate and really interested in the story. And they the two, natural wine and quality, are so they're so connected. I think to produce really good quality, if you're in the pursuit of quality, really, it's about doing things properly, sensitively, and sometimes as a prerequisite, you're doing things in more of a natural way. Some of the best wines that you find out there, the most expensive wines, are made biodynamically and made naturally. You've got a wine called Domaine Romani Conti, which is released every year. £3,000-4,000 a bottle sometimes, depending on the vintage, and it's biodynamic.
Back vintages go like hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, and you have producers like Domaine Laflave, produce some of the best white Burgundies.
I always think that's Domaine Flavor Flav.
Domaine Flavor Flav. Maybe they should rebrand
Missing
it.
a trick there.
Yeah. Flavor Flav. We need to get some, but I tried Domaine Laflave, just their sort of basic Chardonnay, and even that, because it's made properly and naturally in a biodynamic way, it's just got so much more interest and flavour to it. And even some of the big producers now in Bordeaux that have been doing things very conventionally and been making lots of money, been doing things in a way that suits particular kinds of critics, so they can get big high scores every year. They've been experimenting with organic and biodynamic and more sensitive natural processes for a good sort of 15 to 20 years now. And if you go to a region like Alsace, for instance, which is it's got such a depth and a wealth historically of quality. You had more Michelin-starred restaurants in Alsace. It's a tiny bloody region. More Michelin-starred restaurants per square mile in Alsace than anywhere in the world. And you've got more of a hotbed of winemakers gravitating towards organic, biodynamic and natural over the last, the first time I went there was about 10 years ago, and I'll ask every winemaker, what's the future? What's the future for quality winemaking? And they all say organic, at least organic, because you're spraying less shit in your environment. It means that your soil health is getting better, and as a prerequisite, your fruit's getting better, your vines are getting better, they're more healthy, which means that you end up with fruit that's just, it's great. But it all comes back down to soil health, the health of the earth that you're planting your fruit and your vines and your veg or whatever else in. You can't make really good quality produce unless you've got a really good base layer of soil that's healthy, that's got lots of microbiology, lots of kind of life in it. And what you're kind of finding in these big swathes of land in the States is a really kind of good example, and in some of the southern states, and they're employing a monoculture, so it's just wheat field upon wheat field upon wheat field. Over time, the soil gets tired and it literally turns into sand. It has no nutrients left in it at all. So they have to pump nutrients and fertilizers back into it in order to produce the same crop, which is fucking nuts. So I think also as well, you know, kind of going back to your kind of question about, you know, who kind of finds natural wine interesting and kind of who doesn't. I think it's also kind of people that are a little bit more connected to, you know, to the global debate about, you know, what's right for the environment and what's not.
I think it's people who give a shit, actually.
Yeah.
Probably. Which is a pretty blunt way of saying it, but I think part of it is that people who give a shit.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's the simplest way of putting it. You should probably put a sign above the door saying, "Do you give a shit? If you don't, fuck off."
Only allowed in if you give a shit.
Yeah.
Where did the name Wine Freedom come from?
It's more of a feeling, I think, really. It's sort of based more around the natural wine thing. You know, a lot of the natural winemakers, you know, they feel like they have the freedom to do things as they want to do them, rather than in a formulaic kind of way. And also, from an educational point of view, you know, I like, you know, providing a space and a platform for consumers to learn more about wine. You know, what we stand for, really kind of the core of what we do is education, but making, you know, wine inclusive and understandable, because there's such it's all about kind of understanding consumer psychology, really. You know, a lot of consumers, when they go into wine drinkers, when they go into a wine shop, there's this degree of, you know, I don't really quite know enough, and I'm feeling a little bit inadequate, and I don't really know if I'm going to ask the right questions. And what we are trying to do at Wine Freedom is provide a space where you don't feel inadequate. You know, you can kind of say what you want. And it really just purely comes down to what you like and what you don't like. You know, what I quite like to do is sort of dipping down into the sort of, you know, the science of why you like things and why you don't like things. Just to sort of establish, really, it's the diversity of people that are drinking that makes it so interesting. And on top, you've got this diversity of different sorts of wine, which make it even more interesting. And I did I did this wine tasting years ago. I called it Wine Wankers, and which is sort of taken on a bit of a thing of its own, like with us. We've sort of got Wine Wanker t-shirts now. But it would never work. Like you never print Wine Wanker on a t-shirt, nobody's going to buy them. And yeah, we pretty much sold all of them, which was good. But it's all about kind of democratizing the subject, and making people feel comfortable about it, because whether you like it or not, you know, wine is consumed in a social environment. It's a social glue. You know, it helps to kind of inebriate people, and generally you consume it with friends and family, and sometimes work colleagues as well. And you've got to take it at that face value. You know, it doesn't have to be all that serious. But, you know, we like to sort of layer on some education on top, so you can learn a little bit, you know, about the subjects as well at the same time.
Something nice about wine, like you open a bottle of beer, that's it. You're going to drink that bottle of beer on your own, aren't you? Whereas you open a wine, more than likely
You got to share it.
you're going to share it, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're going to share it, aren't you?
I don't know about that.
I'm not sure Siobhan gets a look in when Carl gets his Wine Freedom delivery. How do you boys? How did you all meet each other? How did the two of you meet? And
So I was actually through buying wine from Sam. I was working in a place in Harborne called the Plough, which God, it's about 3 years ago. Kind of was looking at getting a more interesting array of wines, and one of the managers there was put in touch with Sam through the guys at Carter's, actually. So Holly at Carter's put us in touch with Sam, and and at the time I was kind of running wine tastings at the Plough, but was looking at opening my own place. Like a wine focused place, but on a much smaller scale. I wanted to do like a small little neighbourhood wine bar in Bearwood or in Smethwick, somewhere like probably the worst place to open a wine bar. But
I disagree. I think it might go.
Well, I was pretty much I was looking at the
Maybe
at the
not 3 years ago.
yeah. But I was looking at the rent. I was thinking that could work. But yeah, I was literally just gonna almost like a tiny little blank box wine bar, and just get a couple, do a bit of cooking, then just see what happened. Anyway, fortunately, I think I asked Sam one day if he ever wanted help, like doing deliveries or something. It wasn't with the intention of kind of working with Sam, because actually I didn't know that he was actually planning something on the side as well. And then after a month or two, it kind of led on from there. And then Sam was like, "Do you want to be involved with the thing that I'm doing?" And it was kind of a bit of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
So that's how.
So the thing that you're doing is that's this.
That's this. That,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Sorry.
Say, is there something else?
Yeah. No. So yeah. So I've just suddenly realised we haven't got like a camera crew here.
No. So our listeners, obviously, there's no camera. We're actually recording this. Is it just going to be called Wine Freedom? Is that? It's just going to be called.
We toed and froed with what we're going to call it. I think
Wine Wankers.
it was
Surely.
well, might call it actually. And then you look at various businesses that end up having like a name for the shop and a name for something else, and it confuses people. So we're just like, look, we're known as Wine Freedom, and it still kind of holds a lot of value and water for us. So it's Wine Freedom, and it might end up getting called something else or getting a nickname at some point. We call it Floodgate because it's on Floodgate Street.
I now call it 28 because the floodgates open down there. So
Yeah.
So I now kind of call it 28, but that's probably a bit too.
Yeah, so we are on Floodgate Street
Yeah.
in Digbeth, so it's a cool place to open. It's at the minute it's quite hard to picture. It's early days. We're lucky to get an early look at it. There's a lot of pallets, but there's big potential in all these units here. So there's going to be, I'm trying to guess here. There's going to be a bar, a shop. Is there food?
There was going to be food. So initially with the kind of we were describing it as a bar, shop, kitchen, and event space. Obviously, with the thing that's happening at the moment, we've scaled it back a little bit just so we're not putting so much capital in with all the uncertainty.
Yeah.
So we're kind of we're stripping back the kitchen.
Yeah.
It'd be called sensible, I think, and just kind of keep it flexible, I think, as well.
So we're going to put in a bar made of very nice pallets, and there'll be a little bit of food and retail.
What's the food? Obviously,
That's still a work in progress. But we have had encouraging conversations with people in
That was going to be one of the names of the place as well. Work in progress. Because it really kind of the idea for the space is that it's flexible, and it's a nice big kind of sort of big shoebox, I guess. Really, it's like 2,500 square foot, and the idea is that we can mould it, create it, any sort of wine and events experience that would suit whoever wants to kind of take the space on. So for businesses, for corporate. And the reason for kind of using the pallets now is so that we can literally move everything around. Nothing's kind of bolted to the ground. So it gives us this freedom and this flexibility to sort of have a bit of a play around with the space. And I know, I've set up pubs and bars before, and you always end up like thinking, shit, 3 months down the line, I wish I hadn't put that there, and I wish I hadn't put that there. So it's going to allow us a bit of flexibility for the first few months to really get to know how the space works, and then we might end up putting some plumbing in somewhere, and having a kitchen.
We will definitely put plumbing in at some point. Like, we're not just to confirm there will be water in there. I mean we've got like an amazing chef lined up who's currently working in a Michelin-star restaurant as a kind of as a second in command, but he's I think he's great. He's still keen, hopefully, and we've got a couple of people that we're really excited to work with as well. But yeah, so it's going to be a lot more stripped back than it was initially going to be. But it's going to be. I think the first iteration is very much going to be a pretty blank space where we can do events, but it's kind of, I suppose it would look and feel a little bit like a bar and shop, but it won't look like one, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you got your kind of free main kind of. You got your off sales.
Yeah.
Your drinking, and then maybe a wine tasting as well, and the events kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But I think the main feature will be it's like you said before, a lot of people go into a wine shop or go into the wine aisle and they're a little bit intimidated. So you'll have someone on hand. So training is going to be a key thing. Training your staff if you have some, or when you get some.
Yeah.
I think at this rate, so we've got we've got some really good staff lined up. I think actually they'll probably be training. Genuinely, they're like we've got
Training us.
Yeah, they're so enthusiastic, so clued up, so kind of passionate.
I think we're keen, obviously keen on knowledge, but we're also keen on passion and the ability to have a degree of hospitality, which can be quite a difficult thing to learn. I think there are some people which are naturally, I think, just more sort of hospitable, and it's a really key thing that we have a warm welcome, and we make anybody that walks through the door give them so that they kind of feel comfortable, welcome, and they're asked the right questions. What do you like drinking? What don't you like drinking? Do you want a coffee? Whatever. So yeah, we'll be doing coffee as well. That's another important thing.
Supply for the coffee,
Yes, we do. Yeah, it's a bit of a work in progress at the moment. So it might be something quite. No. Hopefully, it'll be something quite interesting. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
I can definitely vouch for how great you are at interacting with customers, because I've bought quite a few bottles during lockdown.
Yeah.
And all the emails and correspondence have all been, what did you think of this, and what did you think of this?
No, you were at all.
And it's been really helpful, and it's helped me learn a lot about wine, about what I actually do and don't like and stuff like this. Because I used to be a big red wine drinker of just normal, sort of what you get in the supermarket, red wine. Yeah. And I find myself now, I barely touch red wine. It tends to be mainly sort of pink fizz. Or
yeah,
like
Carl's drunk a lot of pink fizz.
Or white now.
Yeah.
And that's down to some of the great wines and advice we've had, and it's so easy. Like, you seem to really care about what people actually buy when they buy from.
Yeah, I think as well. Like, I think we both like talking and like listening. I don't mean that as a good or bad thing. Like, we will talk until cows come home, and really enjoy actually listening to what people have to say and what people think. There's nothing there's nothing interesting in dictating to somebody what they're going to be drinking. If it's not a two-way conversation, kind of like what's the point? So actually, it's quite embarrassing. Actually, I was looking at. What was I going to say? No, I was looking. No, I'd written an email to a customer who just literally said like, "Oh, I had, you bought your Vermentino and one of the Northern Italian Reds. What else might, what else could you recommend?" And then ended up reading it, and it was only like a 1,000 word essay. I was like, bloody hell, they ain't going to buy anything. They'll fall asleep and they'll go to Asda. It's like, what am I doing here? But it's no, it's I think
the best. It's about a dialogue, I think, really, and this whole kind of thing about natural wine is a dialogue. There's no sort of rights and wrongs, and the best, I think, experiences and tastings that I've done, we've sort of done combined, really, is where you've got the customers spending more time talking than you are. What you're kind of doing is sort of guiding them really into, with different wines and into different sort of tasting experiences where, they're engaging in kind of having fun. And generally, the louder a tasting is, an event is, the better it is. So one of my kind of big ideas really is trying to develop a way of doing wine education where it's a little bit more of a visual thing. So you can come and try wine and learn about wine, but you're actually you're learning through more of a visual kind of means. So you can tell a story in much more of a succinct way within the space of like sort of 10 to 15 seconds through like a short video than somebody kind of giving you like a monologue of who they are, where they come from, and what's special about them. You get more of an impression, more of a feeling really through visual means. So this space is going to act as a bit of as a space for us to kind of develop more of a creative way for learning about wine, and hopefully learning about food and other kind of related stuff.
Is the location on purpose? Because Digbeth it's a great place to be at the moment. Is this where you want it to be?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I wanted a big space because I think kind of having a small location in the city, right in the middle, would have been, the location would have been great because you have more footfall and all the rest of it. But it's, again, it kind of goes back to that word of freedom. It's all about having the kind of freedom for us to kind of do what we want to do, and creative learning which is it's really difficult when you've got a small space to do it. And we've got lots of space and white blank walls and stuff that we can utilise, to sort of feed into that educational, more kind of visual-led learning. Taylor knows I'm a bit of a fan of projectors. So there will be at least one projector, maybe two. It's a great way of sort of getting, I trained as an art student and went to.
So you trained as an art student?
Trained as an art student.
You didn't even qualify to be an art student?
No, I
You were
didn't.
an art student.
I was an art student, yeah. So there is that sort of, I think, kind of creative visual streak running through, but I see value in it. I see it because I've used it in an educational environment before, and I see how it works, like really, really well. So it might be less about us talking about where all the stuff comes from all the little nuances about yeasts and molecules and stuff, of which there will be, but there will be other experiences whereby it'll be less us chatting and more about you enjoying the taste and the experience and learning about the winemakers through a visual means.
But also, I think, kind of going back onto Digbeth a little bit, it's the guys over at Digbeth have kind of shown what you can do with a space like this, and they pull the crowds in, and obviously you've got the guys around DDC sort of each week, pre-COVID, like pre the thing obviously, putting sort of 4, 5, 6, 7,000 in a week, and doing like really interesting events and kind of showing what Digbeth, what you can do with a space in Digbeth. So.
Still feels like a kind of creative little hub.
Yeah,
around
definitely.
Here,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, the guys next door to us, like 3D print, or they I don't know if they've moved across the road. They like 3D print like food, like mad. And there's a filmmaker across the, based in that office over there. So I'm pointing to an office, and obviously you've still got all the studios in the Custard Factory itself. So Tom, who we work with a lot on photography, he's got a studio in there. So yeah, I think it's kind of probably because of the historically lower rents, it's kind of encouraged that. Whether that will change in 5, 10, 15 years is a different story. But at the moment, it's definitely one of the places in Birmingham, certainly in the centre, that's got that kind of.
If I come into Birmingham, if I'm drinking, it's more than likely going to be in Digbeth. Than anywhere else.
Yeah,
and it's only 2-3 minutes really from Moore Street Station, isn't it? Well,
Yeah,
maybe 5 minutes.
It's about 10 minutes from Moore Street.
No. Depends how thirsty you are.
Yeah.
Shh, it's 32 seconds. It's 32 seconds. No.
Depends how thirsty you are.
Yeah. Or how drunk you are at the point that you get there. No. Yeah. No, I think it's 10. Is it 5:50? I don't know.
It's not far.
It's
I
not
mean,
far.
if you look, if the building weren't in the way there, you'd see it.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
It's 3 minutes in an Uber, so there you go. Yeah, it's dead easy.
3 minutes in a slow Uber. But yeah, it's the you're saying if you come to Birmingham for a drink, you'd go to Digbeth. It has kind of got that I don't really like using the word vibe, but it's got interesting buildings, it's got interesting people, and it's got a bit
community as well, isn't there?
There's
it's kind of full of independent businesses that are doing what they believe in, and I think sometimes not pulling in the punches with their ideas, and I guess this is our version in wine form, I guess.
And you've got some really there's like an amazing art gallery around the corner at Grand Union that do really interesting audio visual stuff and slightly more experimental art. Our joiner Matt is across the road doing these amazing fit outs of places in Birmingham, like just doing amazing stuff with chopped down trees. So it's just got a really interesting and nice mixed use of people and buildings and kind of aesthetics, really. So yeah.
When do you open? Is that work in progress too?
Yeah.
Tony just mentioned Matt, who's incredible with wood and great joiner. We kind of sort of to a degree kind of be waiting for him to try and find out like when he can jump on the job. He hasn't got a massive amount to do actually, but he's so popular that he's got a lot of work to do after COVID to sort of keep all of his customers happy. So we've kind of been waiting for him. We're waiting for these pallets to arrive, which arrived yesterday. And there'll be some other kind of knickknacks to kind of do like around the edges. We need to tile the bathroom, and we've done most of the painting now. We found the whitest paint that Dulux can provide.
I never want to see another tub of fucking white paint in my life. I think genuinely, we've gone through 4 different types of white paint on this wall.
Jesus.
Like you're clearly not impressed by it. You haven't gone like wow. You've just gone, geez.
No, it's definitely white.
What else we need to? I mean, stuff's going to be phased in. So we talked about the kitchen, which is going to be phase 2. We are going to have some food, which is going to be akin to our kind of ethos. We're talking about rillettes at the moment and nice sort of vegetables, pickled vegetables. Great sourdough. We're a massive fan of bread making, and we're very lucky to have friends who make some incredible bread around the city. So that'll be included. And it's really it's going to be food and cuisine that ties into the philosophy, the concept, and the ethos. So as traceable as we can, and in a style that's quite light and fresh, and that kind of works really, really well with the style of wine that we're putting in front of customers. So
did you have a rough estimate on the date?
So the date,
There was 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
so it's called dancing around the date.
You were after a 2-word answer.
There's no day.
There actually is no date currently, but we're looking at the start of September. I think it's probably going to take Matt a couple of weeks to help us kind of form the space into something that's kind of workable. And then I was chatting to somebody today, like, when's the launch? I'm kind of like, well, launch kind of means a party, and it's a bit difficult to kind of hold a party at the moment. So I think what we'll do, we'll open the doors. We'll do a bit of PR and publicity around us opening up as a shop and a bar, and then we will do a party kind of when we're allowed to properly, when we can get a load of people in here and have a proper smash up.
I think people need to be more confident and just be able to have a party on their own. So like a one-person party in here, and that's sort of have like a very social distance party, like one customer per 2,500 square feet.
What we tried to do, I mean, we're in a luxurious position where we've got a lot of space, so we've tried to engineer the setup and the layout whereby it's really easy for us to kind of have like tables of 2s and 3s and 4s, and the flexible setup is going to allow us to maneuver everything around so that everybody can come in and drink here quite safely, and we can have a reasonable amount of people in here to generate some atmosphere, because it's one of the difficulties really I think at the moment is that you can sparsely populate your restaurant or your pub or your bar, and it kind of lacks a bit of atmosphere. So I'm kind of hoping that once we get enough bodies in here safely, it'll feel really good. I think we'll have a sound system in here, and I think once people get a few glasses down them, it should be really fun.
Yeah, I'll be here. Don't worry about that.
Is it just? This might be a stupid question, but is it just wine, or is there like going to be beers and?
There will be beer, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Craft beers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean we sell wine to Glasshouse and Digbeth, so I think it'd be rude of us not to.
Yeah.
Not
no beer for us, please.
Absolutely no.
Not the other way around.
I probably shouldn't say. I'd probably drink more beer than I do wine actually if I'm going out. So terrible salesman, but we'll have to have some decent beers. Whether they'll start off on tap is a different question, but the guys at Digbeth and Glasshouse, they can and bottle some amazing stuff. So I think we'll definitely be having some beers, and obviously coffee. We're both pretty big coffee. They're coffee heads? No, that sounds weird. Like coffee people, we like coffee. That's the simple way to say it.
It'd be mad of us to not mention as well the web shop you've got, so your website where you're selling wines on there as well. Has that been a bit of a headache to set up?
Yeah, so that's live now, so
you
don't have to
use
wait for
that
this
now.
shop to open. You can go online.
It is
now
live
and
now.
get
Yes,
it.
yeah. It's been it's been a bit of a labour of love. It was stop start for quite a long time, and it's a great way of sort of launching the brand. It really gives you a feel of who we are and what we do, what we kind of stand for, and I think it's a sort of fun, visually, kind of engaging website. And what we're trying to do, sort of develop it so that it's a really good kind of user experience. So if you like Sauvignon Blanc, then there are these other wines that you can choose, which are kind of similar to Sauvignon Blanc. And what we're trying to do is represent the winemaker story as well. So we've got like a winemaker section, which tells you a little bit more about some of the winemakers that we champion. And it also gives you an idea of, also the other stuff that we do as well. So we supply wine to the trade as well. So there's, a page on who we work with. And also we won an award last year with our friends at Hampton Manor. So I've been working very closely with them for quite a few years. And we won AA Wine List of the Year 2020, or 2019 going into 20. Which was a great kind of accolade, essentially kind of the best wine list in the UK. So really, really proud of that. And there's a little kind of sort of flashy show reel to kind of show you like what was kind of done around that. What else do we do? There's one on wine events, which of course isn't quite happening really yet, but we will do. We do a bit of work with the guys at Digbeth Dining Club. So last year we were doing a pop-up wine bar at various different places where they were kind of hosting at Warwick Castle and Solihull and Shirley, so we're doing a bit with them. So we've got this an events unit which is kind of half finished at the moment, so when we can kind of get that up and running, we'll be doing like wine events and wine bars all over the place.
So saying it's half finished is a very nice way of saying you'd get very wet if you stood in it and it rained. It
needs to be waterproof.
Yeah.
So and that's another one that Matt, our MGM Bespoke, he's called, has kind of created. So we're not just like a one-stop thing. This space is really kind of designed for us to have as a home, and for us to have as somewhere where we can kind of do everything related to wine. As Taylor's probably kind of getting a bit kind of pissed off with me kind of coming up with these sort of marketing kind of strap lines, but it's a space for us to kind of create experiences around tasting stories, and that's really kind of when you drill down to the very kind of sort of simple form. It's we love consuming stuff, whether it's food, wine, beer, and it's a space that's going to allow people to come along and have a bit of fun and kind of enjoy what we're putting in front of them. So
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds great. Can't wait.
Sold.
Can't wait to see the transformation.
Will you start drinking when you come here, or?
No, I won't be ever drinking again.
Fair enough.
Liam's done enough drinking in the past.
Good man.
I'm retired. Oh, there's a question I'll ask you two before we finish up. Is non-alcoholic wine any good?
I haven't had any, but genuinely haven't had any. But
they do natural? They can't do natural, surely, by process.
My suggestion is, wine is fermented grape juice, and non-alcoholic wine is. So non-alcoholic wine is wine that's grape juice that's been made into wine, but then you sort of need to reverse the process. You need to strip out the alcohol. During that process, you strip out lots of other different flavours. So in answer to your question, no, I haven't really tried one that tastes really good. But what I would say, if you're going to go for non-alcoholic, just have grape juice. Like we've got a couple of suppliers that just do really nice, lovely, sweet grape juice, from grapes.
It's not overly sweet though. A bigger problem I have is when I go out, I like to still go out even though I don't drink, and I go out all day with the lads, but I don't want to drink Coca-Cola or orange juice or something really sweet all day. You know what I mean?
One of the producers that we sell called Nibiru in Austria. They've got an amazing grape juice made from the grapes of Grunewaldner, and it's really it's genuinely really sweet because if you think at the start process of making wine, you need all that sugar to go into alcohol, but if you kind of have it as like a long drink, so almost like a 50 ml measure of grape juice with soda, it's unbelievable. It's so fresh and so like, I don't want to sound like a wanker, but it's like really complex. It's like and put that next to like something like Coca-Cola, like, well, what's the point in drinking that? And that's something that we'll be having here, and it's coming up on these. And honestly, it's really good. I mean, I am. Over lockdown, I sort of started buying a lot of alcohol-free beers, and
There's some good ones. There is some good ones. They're not like they're not brilliant, but
Well,
It's
like
different.
the big drop stuff.
Big drop
I
stuff's
love big drops.
fantastic.
drops. Yeah, but the best one again going off topic. The best one I found in a supermarket, because I live quite near a Tesco, although I should shop, not a Tesco, but I sometimes do, obviously. But the Brooklyn special effects. Is
Yeah, I
really,
like Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think
Brooklyn's very good.
that's been like a really good.
I have to get it online, but Michela
Yeah.
do some beers.
They're
It'd be really hard push to tell if they were alcohol free or not. And
Yeah.
I've been kind of living off them.
Yeah, the Michela, and again, I suppose like Michela have this like these amazing labels as well. So you could be drinking absolute piss, but it looks great. But the but no, the Michela alcohol-free beers are really good. But from a supermarket,
I thought I'd take that opportunity to ask because I've not tried any alcohol free wine because I've just always been told it's dreadful, so I'm not bothered.
I've never tried any. I'm not.
I think essentially what you manipulating the product. You're stripping stuff out. So I think it's very difficult to find something that
some stuff as well.
Yeah. We worked with a winemaker down in a place called Cahors in France, and I tried some of his grape juice, which he sort of labelled up, and it was a new thing for him, and his kids drink it, and he sort of realised, I think, after like a year's worth of kind of not really kind of using it really until his kids started drinking it. Actually, there's something kind of in this. So I've mentioned to the importer. Yeah, a guy called Fabien Jouve who makes some of the most amazing Malbec. Went down to go and visit him sort of July, August last year. But yeah, just makes this unadulterated grape juice. And he sort of labelled it up now, and he sells it. So I'm trying to get some into the UK through Ben at Carte Blanche Wines, who imports his wines, because I think there's a market for it. You want to get a bit of a taste of something, genuine and authentic. That's non-alcoholic. So yeah, we're going to be probably mucking around with a bit of that as well.
That's cool. Really?
Carl questions everything.
Carl questions everything. Yeah,
Okay.
It's coming up to that. So, what's your favourite movie?
With Nell and I.
Un Parfait, a French film.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Favourite band?
Fleetwood Mac, easy.
Oh, jeez. Band. I don't know. I'm thinking Metallica, because I know you're a Metallica fan. I always see you in it. I used to eat, sleep, breathe Metallica when I was, and I still do actually. I think they're brilliant. But I don't know. I'd probably gravitate to it. Not a band, but like Bowie or Prince. One of the two, or probably both.
Good answers there. This would be a different one. I think it'd be unfair to ask you your favourite wine. So what's your favourite spirit, down to the actual bottle specifically?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Campari.
Really?
Is that a spirit? It's more of
Yeah,
liqueur,
that's fine.
really.
That would be-
Yeah, I love it. I could carry on drinking that.
Well, being half Mexican, it'd be rude if I said no, probably mezcal.
Oh, yeah, tequila. I love tequila. Yeah.
Probably mezcal.
Yeah.
That'd be unfair, wouldn't it?
Yeah. All of it.
Say all the ones we sell. I'm gonna go. This bottle's the best one.
Yeah. What about you? Can you answer that?
What, on wine?
Yeah.
No, it genuinely varies from day. It varies from day to
Depends
day.
what side of the bed you get out.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, although if you said like, what's the favourite? We don't actually even really sell that much. But there's a cider producer that we quite often buy for ourselves called Eric Bordelais.
Oh yeah,
And his,
amazing.
his
Yeah.
ciders are just
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah,
yeah.
It's funny, like you ask that question to some winemakers, and they'll kind of, actually, no, I like Eric Bordelais cider from Normandy. You kind of answered the question, but not quite. That's a cider. But yeah, he's got an extremely good reputation, in particularly within the natural, wine world.
He's also got a particularly good moustache as well.
Yeah, yeah, he's a proper dude. He's a lovely guy.
So he does like a pear grown on granite soils, and it's just stunning.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Amazing
And
stuff.
if ever I go and see a winemaker, my favourite wine is always whatever wine they make when I'm.
Yeah.
Like whatever wine they're making when I'm there is always like this is my favourite wine. So
It's an interesting one. I was doing a tasting with the guys from Pisa, the guys that did the pizza over in Moseley. Two lovely guys, and they
Great pizza as well.
yeah, and they're just really interested in wine, and it's been great to kind of help make some wine choices and stuff for them over the last sort of year or so since they've been open. But we had a bit of a wine tasting earlier on, and I always bang on about air pressure and how it affects your sense of taste, because it does. It's scientifically proven now. and it's quite a low air pressure day to day. And we cracked open a few bottles of red in particular we started with, and they just weren't tasting as good as they should do. It brings out, so low air pressure, you tend to feel more acid with the acidity in the wine and more tannins, and you get less sort of primary fruit characteristics. So low air pressure is not a good day to be tasting wine. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's sometimes, I think what I'm trying to say is sometimes it kind of depends on the day, and a nice bright sunny day, sometimes like all the wine just tastes fucking amazing, like incredible, and in some days it's just like, it doesn't taste as good as I remember it. And it is scientifically proven high air pressure and low air pressure really do affect your sense of taste. And some people that go on holiday, have a lovely experience down in Provence or whatever, and drinking rosé by the beach, and it's all sunny and all the rest of it, and they bring that case of wine back home, and it's shitting it down outside, and it's a bit miserable,
Kids are screaming upstairs.
And it just doesn't taste the same, because you want that experience, you want to be transported back. And I was going to say, look, just leave that bottle of rosé on a nice bright sunny day, and you'll probably get more of that proper kind of seaside kind of experience. And it's Heston Blumenthal did this thing like a few years ago, and worked with some scientists creating a menu for BA Airlines, because if you're eating fillet steak and drinking really expensive wine several thousand feet in the air in a compressed air chamber, essentially, in an airplane, your olfactory nerve and your sense of taste is completely different. It works in a very different way. I know a guy that was running called Piper Wines down in Devon, who was training for his Master of Wine. He did one of his thesis on how air pressure affects your sense of taste and how it affects your perception of what wine tastes like as well. So, if you come along and the wine's tasting shit, I'll just generally blame it on the fact it's a really low air pressure day, even if the sun's shining outside.
So that is like the most convoluted answer to what's your favourite wine? That was the question.
I think you've always got a bit of a soft spot for. Probably my favourite region, I think, is the south of France, towards like the Roussillon area. Such a diverse kind of range of different soil types, geology. You've got the mountains, you've got the Mediterranean, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I think going back to that first kind of like sort of biodynamic natural wine experience, Le Soula, the white wine, that's where that wine originates from, in the foothills of the Pyrenees, on the French side. So I think I've got a bit of a soft spot for that region.
Well, if Sam's taking a region, I'll take the Italian-Slovenian border, because it's got like these amazing producers, really interesting history, like both cultural and flip-flopping between Italy, Austro-Hungarian Empire. It's really interesting, and the wines seem to, for whatever reason, the wines seem to share this like really interesting, like this real like core of interest. They're just really complex, really interesting, and they kind of focus on orange wines, and I'm a big fan of orange wines. So if Sam's chosen a region, I'm going to choose a region as well, because it's
narrowed it down slightly.
It's not
region,
fair not to.
That's a good answer though. Yeah. What's your favourite big fast food chain?
Wow, McDonald's.
Does Marks and Spencer's count?
I think purely actually from a business point of view, seeing how they've. It's funny, you're actually going to ask some chefs like, what's your guilty pleasure, and so many of them say McDonald's.
We get that all.
It's absolutely nuts.
Say McDonald's or Nando's when we ask that question.
Yeah, it's. Nah, not Nando's. No, not Nando's. Definitely not Nando's.
So my girlfriend took me to my first Nando's experience at the tender age of like 32. So
I used to dress up as a chicken and do the launch parties and stuff for Nando's.
Is this true?
So,
or absolute bollocks?
No, it's absolutely true. So I when I was a student, we used to. You can remember the yellow card pubs? Can you remember them?
Yeah,
they were all over the fucking place. I think they kind of turned into Vars. Yeah, pretty much. And I knew the guy that kind of set that kind of brand up. So it's like a very kind of sort of student kind of orientated, sort of one of the first places that kind of did like a pint and a beer for like £2 or whatever. I was doing sort of promoting and launch parties and stuff for them, but I also did Nando's as well, and it's probably like a bit of a low point. saying, free chicken, free beer, like in a chicken outfit at the top of like Park Street in Bristol. Yeah. But you end up like doing stupid stuff as well because like nobody can see your face, so you end up like acting like a bit of a knob.
The stupid thing was wearing the suit, Sam. That was a stupid.
Probably. Yeah.
Oh, what's your favourite takeaway?
You mean like style or?
Oh yeah, if you want. Mine's Indian. So
Mine's
Indian.
mine's all Indian, all the way.
Yeah, local curry house. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your favourite dish you cook at home?
Favourite dish?
Yeah, like food. What would you cook at home?
At the moment, pizza, because we've just got a very posh Gosney rock box, which is being used a lot, pretty much every other day at the moment. And I think the whole kind of thing of like making dough and with the family and the kids and stuff is just a really kind of good fun experience. So yeah, that's me at the moment.
Well, as a veggie, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's actually salads. I absolutely love making salads, but I've got an allotment that is just give me so much stuff. So just like a really simple, really fresh.
Oh, we forgot the allotment bit.
Yeah.
Taylor's got this incredible allotment. I haven't been to visit yet. Which is very remiss,
so
isn't
you
it?
don't know it's incredible, do you?
Yeah, I've just seen lots of the photos and Taylor coming back with a lot of dirt between his fingernails.
But the potatoes just started coming up this year, like the last couple of weeks, and just like these made like really amazing salads with them.
Yeah.
Like just potatoes, broad beans, a bit of feta and mint. It's just.
So
I'd be happy with that.
it's kind of the idea once we've got the kitchen like properly up and running, we can start representing Taylor's allotment.
That's what you could call the kitchen.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
Taylor's allotment. That could be the kitchen. Yeah.
You have to pay for it. I'm not doing that for free.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's all the questions. So we're done.
Great.
That was
Thanks, guys.
great. Thank you very much, lads.
Thank you
Good
very much.
meeting you.
Hey everyone, massive thank you for listening. We absolutely love making these episodes and bringing you the story of some of the best people in the food industry in Birmingham. As we said before, we love Birmingham and its food scene and we think it's truly special. So if you agree, do us one big favour. All you have to do is rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps promote the podcast and gets us listened to by more people and gets more people to listen to how great Birmingham is, and we would really appreciate it if you could do that for us. Until next time, thanks again for listening.